You know what to do, just like every other podcast. Hey, we're not late. Time just got here a little bit earlier. Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. I hope everybody's having a fantastic week. It's the weekend, it's Friday night. I hope everybody's relaxing and having a good time, on this weekend, and being safe. Be safe out there. I saw some crazy stuff that happened here recently about a YouTuber who ended up losing his life in a race. I believe it was like in New York, and it's unfortunate stuff. So everybody be safe. Everybody have a good weekend. But we have a good show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about going a little bit wrong there, about the Richard Allen case. The case is the arguments are done. Closing arguments came in. Now the jury is deliberating until they have a verdict. So we're going to have a couple special guests. We have from It's a Crime and Shame, we have Sunny, and I think Alexa is ready. If she is, there she is. So Alexa as well. How you doing? Welcome back to the show. It's been a while. We'll start off with you, Sunny. How you doing? How you been? You're on mute.
You're muted.
Okay, my bad. So sorry. I had coughed. That's why I had muted myself. But anyways, hi everybody. But yeah, no, I've been really busy working like you, Daniel. I've been on the 12 to 8 shifts and then been doing lives for every day of the trial. This trial's been very important. Been waiting for it for a long time. And now we're at that point that we're just all sitting in our seats wondering what the outcome will be.
100%. That's, a lot of people forecasted that this verdict might be in already. I'm not too surprised that it isn't in, but we'll talk about that much more. Alexa, how you been? It's been a while as well.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for inviting me. No, it's been good. I've been helping my dad with his company. He lives in Spain, so I've been working, literally waking up at like 2 a.m. because it's basically 8 a.m. over there. So it's a little hard because it's hard to adjust to the time difference. So right now I'm like falling asleep. This is my bedtime, but I'm. Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Yes. I'm glad you guys could make it. Richard Allen case. So arguments are closed. I think a lot of people may have had a certain feeling, perhaps before closing arguments happen. I feel that a lot of people that I have seen online may have had some concerns once the defense was done with their argument. But we'll start off with the prosecution since they went first. And overall, how strong of a case do you think, and we'll start off with you, Sonny, how strong is this case do you think that the prosecution built for this case, given the amount of time that they have had, not only to find and locate Richard Allen, but since the time of his arrest to this time of his trial?
What was the beginning of the question? How
strong of a case do you think this is? Do you think that this was done well? Are you concerned at all?
No.
Any bit?
No, absolutely not. You know what? The jury deciding this is going to be on a hope and a prayer because of all the mess ups that have gone on with this case. And we can just like keep layering how many mistakes have been made. Honestly, as for like the handling of this case, I'm going to give like 10% at best. As for hopefully the outcome I still want to have happen is that I absolutely believe it is Richard Allen. I think that the evidence does show it, but meaning because there's so many things that they could have had, didn't have, should have had, that could weigh very heavily on the outcome of the verdict for sure. So I'm not, I would never say 100% that guilty. I want a guilty verdict because Richard Allen to me is that man for sure. When you look at what was said and he in placing himself there, but yeah, so I'll be devastated. And that will, honestly, I will blame the LE and the people that were in charge of this case if it doesn't come to fruition, for sure.
I definitely agree with what you're saying there at the end. Alexa, do you think that the prosecution or do you think that the defense has presented a stronger argument thus far? Yeah. You're on mute.
Sorry. I didn't pull a Sunny now. I think they poked a couple holes, and I think due to that, a lot of people switch. Because I remember like Brad Weber. I mean, that was like we known about him for years.
Mhm.
And no, I mean, a couple people suspected of him, but not many people. And now, in suddenly, he has become the guy. He is, we moved from John Morgan to this is the guy. So I think they were able to go. So I think they did their best. The only thing I didn't like about this, almost to me, this is how I'm not a lawyer, but this is how it felt to me. It's almost like they were trying to throw whatever stuck in the wall, and they went with that. Like they didn't have one thing and that we're gonna say this, and this is our strategy, and this is what we're going to do. No, I think they were trying to see what can they do, and at the end, it's almost like this is what we found. This is what we're gonna go for. So the
Mhm.
white band became like the scapegoat and everything. I mean, you have the jury. I mean, what is the jury thinking?
Mhm.
We don't know. But at least I'm happy to say that they didn't think he's innocent. Because I think if they thought that he was innocent, we would have gotten a innocent today,
Oh, you think
not
that a
guilty.
verdict would have happened if he was?
Yeah. So to me,
That's
that's I think,
possible.
yeah.
Yeah, that's possible. For me, I think that the defense in this case presented probably the best defense that they could, or that anybody could, for Richard Allen. And,
Mhm.
they were on top of their game. I don't think the prosecution wasn't necessarily on top of their game, but I think they were handcuffed because of law enforcement and some of the strategies that were being taken while they were trying to,
Mhm.
locate the actor in this case. And
Mhm.
so, me, I am a little bit concerned, you know, and but I think that worst case scenario, I think that this is going to end up coming down to a hung jury. And if this comes down to a hung jury, they can still retry him. And
Mhm.
the good thing about being able to retry him is you now know the strategy of the defense. You know what they're going to pick at. You know what they're going to ask and do. Like for one thing, and I want to get you guys' opinion on it. Why do you think they never did a height analysis on the bridge guy?
We already know that answer
Why? Well, wait,
because
what is?
they didn't want to waste $10,000 or whatever I think it was. They figured that they didn't need to. It was going to cost them $10,000.
Oh, they're going to spend a lot more because I'm
Mhm.
sure that it's a lot more expensive today than it
Yeah,
was back in the day if this becomes a hung jury.
yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's a
Wow.
lot of things. There's a lot. Why didn't they do the DNA test on the hair? Why didn't they look to see how many Ford Focuses? Why did they wait till the courtroom before they started Google searching, making themselves look like even bigger idiots to the
And
case?
I think you and I, it's funny. I think I said it in your show, and you and I always spoke about this. I think what happened was they have never seen a crime like this. So this is the first time they have ever seen something like this. And I
Yeah.
think, I think they got a little cocky because, you study, you go to school, you learn. But just because you learn something in a textbook doesn't mean that you know how to apply it in real life. And I think this is what happened. I think they were like, okay, we know we're cops, we're detectives, we're DNA, we know how to handle this. And I think they didn't know how to. They didn't. I honestly always believed that there was DNA there, but I think the DNA was compromised because they didn't know how to, because they had never had a case like this before. So it's not like it's their fault. It's just thank God. I mean, it was a good, it was a nice town that this kind of type of crime has never happened. So I think they didn't want to admit it, and they didn't want to let the FBI come in and take over, or ask other agencies to come and help. So I think that costs and caused so many mistakes. I mean, look, they found DNA of one of the workers of the ISP workers. I mean, why? Because it was compromised. They made
Mhm.
mistakes. So
A lot.
unfortunately, hopefully that's not gonna, hopefully I'm hoping that the jury can get past that, but I don't know if they're gonna be able to.
Yeah.
I agree. My gosh, I was muted. And I was going to try to say something and I forgot. And then I realized I was muted. Um, to me, I think when you look back at just how incompetent they were at the beginning, they didn't even take in the branches. Now,
Mhm.
I was an officer way before this crime ever took place. So, and I was from a small town and things of that nature. So we were limited on our technology too. However, even then, in the early pre 2010s and in the early 2000s, even then I would have known not to process the scene like this. And I was never a detective. I was never anything other than just a regular beat officer. And so to say that these guys shouldn't have known because they've never seen anything like this, or they did something wrong, I think that's an excuse that maybe perhaps if they're this incompetent, then they shouldn't be in the position that they're in, because clearly, like, let's just say Richard Allen does get off on this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say he actually did do it, and then he does it again somewhere else. I mean, that's the next huge tragedy in this, and or if he loses it on his family or something, the things that he was doing or willing to do. I think there was a situation where one of the doctors had explained that he appeared to hesitate before drinking toilet water or something like that.
Mhm.
So if he was faking some of those moments, not saying he was faking them all, but if he was faking some of those moments and doing some really disgusting and disturbing things, why are we surprised that he would have done something as disturbing and disgusting as what happened with the victims in this case?
Oh, the victims, yeah.
So what do you think, guys? We'll start off with you, Son. What was the strongest thing as weak as it was, but what was the strongest point on the prosecution side thus far? Like, what made this case, if it's going to go guilty, what part of it is going to be that?
Okay, yeah. So, okay, so the timeline. So basically, Richard Allen self-reported himself, and then he met up with, I'll call him, I'm sorry, but Dummy Doolin, and he met up with him a couple of days later, and so he said the same time frame, 1:30 to 3:30. So he self-reported at that, and he told Doolin that as well. So to me, that sticks. The defense trying to take away from that. The other thing would be, and people can braggadocious all they want about this whole white van thing. The white van, it was not this big common thing out there to us about the white van. It was one of those things that if it was said about a white van, because everyone was looking at Brad Weber. So,
well, hold on. So first, talking about the white van, and then I want to go back a little bit first. Well, let's go back first to your first argument.
Sure.
Him putting himself at the scene, I think that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you that. The white van, I heard it's been out there, but they had some Google searches, right? And did the Delphi murders searches come out frequently, or was it more about some disturbing things that he was searching? What was more frequent? Because I think I think Richard Allen only Googled the Delphi murders a handful of times. So, a lot of people are saying that this information was out there, but did he have access to the information?
That's just it. Exactly. That's just it. That's something, if you think of it logically, he would not have, meaning Brad Weber's not going to throw himself, go, oh, you know what? Let me just put myself back at 2:30 just so we can convict her or whatever. So the Google searching, to me, do I think that Richard Allen had any knowledge of a van from the social media aspect side of it or anything to know that, or discovery even? Absolutely not. To me, if I was the jury myself, I'd be looking at him placing himself there on the bridge between the time that about the 1:27 that matches with a vehicle, regardless if they can't make out that it specifically is. We're talking about what's the chances? What's the chances that he says something about 3 girls that look like sisters and they happen to be sisters and the fourth one was a friend or whatever? What's the chances? But the sticking points to me would be him self-reporting himself there, him talking about a van that obviously spooked him, which makes sense. And honestly, the talk with his mom, really, you're going to tell your mom and your wife that you did something that you didn't do? It's ludicrous to think that someone's going to confess, whether they're in a psychosis state or not. When you look at between the lines there, and I hope the jury does, you can tell when somebody is saying something normal, like, Mom, why am I going to say something to you or tell you something that I didn't do? Are you really going to admit that to your mom that you killed 2 girls if you didn't, or your wife? He was literally in Walla's office as he talked to Kathy, and he's like, see, she doesn't believe me. Okay. So I'll never make excuses for anyone. I don't care what state of this up here you're in. for taking the lives of two people. You've confessed to it. You put yourself there. You've talked about a white van that absolutely coincides with, say, Brad Weber, even though, whatever. I'm just going to say that's how I feel. Those are the sticking points to me. And that's what I hope that the jury understands. And don't forget, you guys, the cell phone, 2017.
Mhm.
The only cell phone that seems to be missing is the 2017 cell phone during that time. Other than that, he was a hoarder. He was a collector of stuff. But that one goes missing. Anyways, thank you. That was my take.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I know. And I'm familiar with all those things as well. I think that, you know, we can break down a lot of those individual pieces and
Oh,
I like to look around when I hear sounds like, where's that coming from? well, anywho, like for instance, to me, the confessions are huge.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I think the confessions are huge is because, first and foremost, some of them happened beforehand, you know,
Mhm.
before he started, losing his mind,
Mhm.
allegedly. And
Yeah.
secondly, is that he wasn't in a constant state of psychosis throughout the entire time that he was there.
What time? Mhm.
And so, you know, one of the things that I had seen that a professional was speaking about, not just a random person, um, is that they were a doctor and they were talking about how how in psychosis states the argument or the things that he would be saying wouldn't match up. It would be all over the place. But he was able to articulate. He got there, he saw them, he forced them down the hill, saw the white van, spooked him, they crossed over. He did what he did, and then he put sticks on them. Like
Mhm.
that is piece by piece by piece by piece in chronicle
Chronological
order.
order.
Exactly. So to me, I think that that's huge, and I think that's going to be the biggest argument. And the fact that he told, like you guys mentioned, his mom and his wife that, you know, there's the other parts too. There was the questions are, you know, would you still love me? This, that, and the
oh,
third. You know,
yeah.
it just seems like he was looking for, you know, he was minimizing a lot of the stuff that he was talking about. You know, even when he admitted to it, he said, I said I did some things I didn't do. And
Mhm.
all of this is just so that he doesn't lose
The
the
love.
the love from his mom and his wife.
Mhm.
And you know, he may be a dude that's just super dependent on those two individuals, and since he can't be with them and he thinks they're going to leave him because of where he's
Mhm.
at, that's probably what causes psychosis too.
But at the same time, if you know about dependent personality,
Mhm.
is dependent personality is people that depend emotionally.
Right.
So, for example, when he starts confessing to his wife, and his wife is like, "No, no, 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 that's not you. No, 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 that's not. Be quiet. It's not you talking." Is so. If he really had dependent personality, he would have said, "You know what? I'm not gonna keep saying because she's getting upset." So somebody who's really dependent personality would be like, "Oh no, I don't want to upset her because then she's not gonna love me." But what does he do? He keeps saying, "No, I did it. I did it." And that to me stroke. And I actually called one of my friends that is a psychiatrist, and I said, "Can you explain?" And I said, I'm not a psychologist, but I worked among them and I know a little bit. And he said, "You know what? Yeah, that's one of the things that would happen, that some dependent personality, he would stop right there because they he wouldn't want to upset them because the love and the so that really caught my eye because he didn't stop. He kept going, "No, I did it, I did it." So
Right.
you know so that means that he didn't even care at
Yeah.
that point that he was upsetting her. So
Right. So
you know
I want to get you guys. Well, first, I want to say thank you to Missy Dog Lover for her 4.99 super chat. Daniel, Sunny, and Alexa, thank you so much for being sensible. I have faith the jury will make the right decision. Thank you. We appreciate that. And I think I also saw Canadian True Crime Buff become a member again. Thank you for joining us again. She's one of our mods. Amazing person. Thank you so much. And on Sunny's side, Kim W gifted a Crime and Shame membership.
Thank you.
And to Explotivia, Daniel, I want to share something interesting and get your thoughts on Odinism and Richard Allen. If it fits in the comment section, just put a couple stars and I'll talk about it. I have my thoughts on Odinism. We're definitely going to talk about that throughout the this show, though. So, for me, when it comes to this case, the biggest strength for the defense is the fact that there it is the fact that it's been 19 months, so she's been here straight. It's the fact that there was no DNA of Richard Allen tying him to anything. There was nothing tying him to the girls on the electronics that they could find. Right? They couldn't find the one that he had randomly, the one that he had during that time. Right? But they found these 30 other devices that he's had since before and after, and they couldn't find anything linking him there. Do you guys think that there was a possibility that he knew they were going there?
No, not anymore.
What do you mean that the girls were going there?
Yeah, that he had prior knowledge that they
I
might be
mean,
going
I
there?
always believe that he targeted Libby, and I always said it. And we might not even know. I mean, I always believe that maybe he stalked her, he saw her, and he somewhere found out. I mean, it didn't show in anything that we have seen, but that doesn't mean that necessarily that it didn't happen. So I don't know.
Hmm.
But what you said that about the devices, there was no DNA on his devices, but don't forget. And this is something I wish the prosecutor would have put more emphasis on it. Don't forget, by the time they came to him, it was 5.5 years later. And DNA, I mean, if you preserve DNA, it can last, thousands in time. That DNA can be corrupted too, especially if you want to corrupt. So 5.5 years, you can definitely get rid of it.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I didn't think. I mean, if Brian Koberger can get rid of DNA in his car in 7 weeks, this is five years
5.5
later.
years.
5.5.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that could have been going through and degraded it and cleaning it out. And who's to say that he didn't go into the car and try to do an extensive cleaning back then?
And also, I don't know if it's true, Sonny. You might know, or maybe that. Is it true that I always thought the wife was a vet technician, but somebody told me that the wife is actually a veterinarian?
Right, a vet.
A
Right.
vet. So that means that he might have either access to more specific cleaning supplies. I'm not saying anything, but I mean, things that clean much better.
Yeah.
Like urine and and things from animals that can definitely corrupt DNA, human DNA faster. So
Mhm.
that I kind of started thinking about that. I'm like, oh, you never know. So,
Yeah. I think that was a big part of their closing argument, is that there was nothing that tied him there
yeah.
outside of him saying he was there.
Yeah.
Him saying he was wearing the clothes that was the same as the guy on the video. Like, all that was there. And then, the defense wants people to believe that the reason why he confessed so many times is because he was tortured. And they even at the end apparently pulled up a picture of some medieval times torturing, which I think should have been objected to. I
yeah.
mean, because that's not nearly the case of what's going on
No.
now.
And this is not the case either. So.
Right. And I think people see the way somebody is shackled up, and I don't think they understand why or how or the reason behind those things. It's because they've not been in those situations. If somebody's wearing a spit bag, it's because they probably are spitting or trying to throw up on people on purpose or trying to bite somebody on purpose. Like, it's not just because, oh, hey, let's just put it on his head. And then you find out that he's eating his own feces and drinking toilet water. Do you want that being spit in your face if he has that in his mouth?
Daniel, there was somebody that made a comment a minute ago that said that they disagree with me about the mental health. So of course, by all means, everyone has their own opinions on this one. But my thing is this: do I believe that Richard Allen was in a state of psychosis or I believe almost all of it was an absolute fake, an absolute draw for attention to minimize the fact that he confessed. Because remember, after he confessed is all of a sudden when he started acting up. the day after the minute he told his mom and his wife, and that's when he started acting up. So I would actually have to believe that he was truly in a state of psychosis. I believe that anyone in his position, I don't care if it's Richard Allen or somebody else, that would be in prison, in a cell, in a box, in a sense, and you have to live your life out like that, and you got thoughts going through your head. Are you going to have really bad days, and you're probably going to act up, perhaps even start talking to yourself? Absolutely. But do I believe that Richard Allen, that he was literally confessing to this for the fact? Absolutely not. Now, just quickly, if you don't mind, Daniel, going back to that, Richard Allen started off that morning going to his mom and dad's home, right? Visiting them. This is the story, okay? So yeah, he goes to his mom and dad's home. And then he goes and picks up beer, drinks some beer, goes back home, gets a jacket or whatever. And then, maybe perhaps knows that it's the girls, the schools are out that day. And he's obviously at some sort of point where he's like licking his chops, thinking about, perhaps doing something. So all along, we always did think that he knew that the girls were going to be there. But when that story came out about him going to his mom's, drinking whatever, 3 beer, he had 6 beer total, whatever, obviously, and being an alcoholic as well and stuff like that. But anyways, so no, this was an opportunity that when those girls crossed the bridge, because most people, when they went to the trail, would turn around and go back. But these 2 girls made the fatal mistake of crossing the bridge that day. And that was his opportunity. He went there prepared to do something, the SA part. So I believe that he went there with the intent to SA. And then on top of that, needed to take their lives, because obviously if he didn't do it, he would be so fast behind those bars. So anyways, so that's why I don't believe it was that, that he knew the girls. He was their opportunity once that information came out to us.
Gotcha.
But I think he went there with the intention of.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Because I don't think you would, somebody, if this was not planned, it would have been so botchy, and this was almost like orchestrated so well. So
It's almost like he'd been thinking about it a little bit before.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
then-
I think he had this fantasy for a long
Yeah.
time. I always said I think
I'll
he
agree.
had some type of sexual deviance, philia, a paraphilia that that we
What do
don't
you
know.
think, Daniel?
So for me, first and foremost, I wouldn't comment on whether or not he was under psychosis or not. And I would say that there are times where doctors said that they thought he was faking. That there were times where he'd walk by and he would stop and see if you were looking at him, and if he did, then he would start acting again. So I believe those moments. But to say that the entire time he wasn't under any psychosis without actually seeing the videos and stuff, I wouldn't be comfortable saying that. When it comes to his motives and stuff and what he said he did that day, he's been doing a lot of minimizing the entire time when he's been talking. He has minimized it. He said that he thought they were older, but they could have been younger. Everything, I wasn't going to take their lives. I was just going to do this, but I got scared. All this stuff is just minimizing. So who's to say 3 beers is what he had? Who's to say that's all he had? Right. So, I think that there's a possibility that he went out there. I think that there's a possibility that maybe he had these fantasies and he was kind of, thinking these things, and maybe perhaps, he did confess to, SAing his daughter. Maybe that was a thought that he had. And then so he's out there, he's drunk.
Yeah.
Because he had other opportunities for other people there. And he didn't
cross the bridge though.
Right. They didn't cross the bridge, but what are the chances that somebody is? Like, you're going to stay out there and see if somebody goes all the way to the other side of the bridge? I don't think so. So what I think happened is, I think he went out there. He's probably doing what he said he was doing. And then he saw them. And I think that whether he was high or whether he was drunk, completely drunk, which I don't think alcohol to that degree, he would have been able to accomplish a lot of what he did. So in my opinion, it's probably something else. Maybe the real reason why he was it Peru that morning? Because he wasn't at home. He came from his mom's house. Where do they live at?
They live in Mexico.
Okay, so if he came from there, is there like a drug problem in that area? I heard there was. And so if he's out there and he's doing something other than beer and he's just minimizing it, saying, oh man, all I did was drink some beer, and the truth is he did other things, he goes out there, he sees Libby and Abby, maybe perhaps he sees Libby and thinks of the things that he fantasized before, and this is his opportunity to take advantage of it, and he just so happens to have his weapon on him. Now he says that he racked the gun when he got close. They didn't find a bullet in that area, so my assumption is he probably didn't have it in the chamber. So when he racked it, it was for the noise. And if he racked it for the noise, and I think we heard that some people have said that in the longer version of the bridge video that you can hear like a slide. If that's true, and you can hear a gun being slid back, and he's doing that motion to intimidate them, just to say he's not going to do it again. Now, if he didn't have anything in the chamber the first time, well, guess what? Once he hit that slide, there's going to be one in there the second time. And so if he does it again, that one's the one that's going to fly out.
Daniel,
so, go ahead.
Or he racked it and he saw that it came out of the chamber and put it in his pocket. And while he was at the crime scene, and probably, to me, what would, like, just a possibility that, because if he would have racked his gun and seen the unspent bullet come out of there, you would be searching for that shit, right?
He would have been on his knees.
So I was kind of thinking that maybe when it racked up top, he had put it in his pocket because it did come out, and he can't leave behind evidence, of course. And then as he's maneuvering the girls, whatever, that it maybe just came out of his pocket, hence why he didn't notice it, hence why he probably stepped on it and it went into the ground, during the time that he was between them and moving their bodies and whatever.
Right. Now, Richard Allen's team, I don't think they brought up this possibility. I think it would have been silly not to. This is the possibility I would have brought up. I would have said, yeah, Richard Allen was there. He didn't have his weapon on him. What he had on him was his phone. Now he's utilized this clothes when he goes out to the gun range. Apparently he goes to the gun range often. Is it possible when he took out his phone on the trail that as he pulled it out, a random bullet that has cycled through his gun fell out of his pocket that he wasn't aware of? Absolutely. And Libby and Abby pick it up on their way? And then that's how you get the bullet at the scene. And so, I mean, I was surprised that they didn't come up with that sort of thought.
Right.
I said that when I saw the probable cause affidavit. I was like, all right, it was cycled through. You can't tell when it was cycled through. Like the marking doesn't get cooler or warmer depending on when it was cycled through. All you know is that it cycled through at some point. So if he goes to the gun range and he finishes what he's doing and he has one in the chamber and he wants to cycle through it to clear it, which is a common thing to do, and then picks it up, put it in his pocket, and my argument would have been that is Richard Allen on that video walking on the bridge like he said he was, but he's not the one instructing them to go down. He just didn't see them going down. And that's how I would have presented it. And I think that would have made this entire case a lot harder to prove, because that is a reasonable story as to him being on the bridge. Now, if they had video of the person that kidnapped him and up close and it's the same clothing, then you can say, all right, it's the guy on the bridge. But I don't know if they had that. Did they have that?
Sorry, did they have what?
No, they don't.
They don't have like a closer up. It doesn't have to show his face, but like his shirt, jacket, pants, anything that would have said, all right, that's the same guy on the bridge because that's the same jacket in this close-up range.
No, I mean, obviously the BG was about this big behind Abby and they blew him up. And so the only thing that can be ever said about that, Daniel, is just that the Riley Voorhees and the other girls, basically looked at the thing of the BG and said, that's who we saw.
Right. I mean,
but as for the
voice also, I mean, I am shocked that nobody said, the voice. Nobody did a voice comparison. I would have had him say, "Excuse me, can you say down the hill, girl?" Like say it to kind of hear it. They didn't do it. So.
I'm not sure. I mean, that would be a manipulation of the voice and stuff. So I think that probably would be objected and there'd be some issues there. And I'm not saying that Richard Allen is innocent. I think he's very much the
Yeah,
guy,
no.
given the fact that he's confessed and stuff. But I just felt that based on the probable cause affidavit, him
Mhm.
putting himself there was pretty strong. But my thoughts were, and when I go back and I look and you say that the bridge guy is this little, so he's far away,
Mhm.
right? And at that point, they're off the bridge, aren't they?
Oh,
On the other
No,
side.
no. No. Well, Libby is. Abby's not.
And so my thing is like, is it possible that not so much is it possible, but if the defense wanted to argue, is like, yeah, that is him walking there, but that's not him crossing all the way over. You know what I mean? But then you also have nobody
Yeah.
else spotted him on the on the on
Well,
the on the trail where he said, I think he said he went back and sat on a bench and nobody saw him there, right?
yeah. I mean, and that's just it. And to me, that's where the jury has to really look at the facts and him placing himself there. That he says that he wore those same clothing that the BG wore. That he's talking about a van that got spooked, and then you have Brad Weber's van coming back home at that time, and he's talking, and he's talking about the crime scene. And it's the confessions. It's all of
Mhm.
that. So, like, to me, there's no big tie-in because nobody specifically said, like, none of the girls said, you know what, that person underneath that face mask we saw, yeah, that's him right there. They couldn't do that. So it's to me, that's where I'm kind of at a loss a little bit with that part, because it's not like anyone can specifically say, besides interpreting, that Richard Allen crossed that bridge, because and the only thing that takes you there is the fact that he put himself there at that time. And by the witnesses, like, even though we know that they've said, like, youthful and 20 years old and stuff,
Mhm.
but the one thing that really puts him there at that point is, basically,
When they do photo lineups, when those things are
yeah.
are used, and why they wouldn't have been used in this case. Would you guys know the reason behind that? So the
So,
reason behind it is, so most of the time when you're going to get a photo lineup, it's because that person was actively involved in whatever crime. They were getting assaulted, they were getting hit, they were getting robbed. They have reason to have taken in the information to remember what they
oh,
saw.
I know what you
And
mean.
so with these people, these witnesses, none of them, that wasn't the case. Like Richard Allen didn't attack them. There was just some random guy on the trail. So they had no reason to remember those things. And so
Okay.
that's why, yeah, everybody's going to be saying one or two different things. Even the three girls can't describe the same guy. And clearly they saw the same guy. And there was, Richard, clearly it was Richard Allen. You can't deny that.
Memory is so faulty, it's
Right.
like the primitive side of your brain that you absorb, but you don't, unless, like you said, unless you're being attacked or something of you. It's like I was asking the other day, like, if I asked you, what did you do November 9 of 2020, you're not gonna remember. But if I ask you, hey Daniel, where were you for September 11, you're gonna be like, oh my god, I did this, I did that, because
mhm.
it's significant to you. But this is
Right.
so insignificant. You're not gonna
you know,
remember.
Right, but I only remember from the point where I heard what happened. I don't
Mhm.
remember what I ate that morning for breakfast. I don't
But you
remember.
probably remember where you were.
Right, that moment
Yeah,
in
that
time
moment,
when I
right?
heard,
Who told you?
and right,
Mhm.
exactly. So that moment, yes, but the
Mhm.
moments beforehand, no,
No,
I can't.
so
Um,
trivial.
right, and so that's why witness statement from witnesses who weren't actually like a part of the
two
of
seconds.
the crime itself
Mhm.
don't aren't very reliable.
No?
Right. And so for one witness to say they saw him high, or
Yeah.
not high, but tall, and one saying short, one saying
Mhm.
larger, one saying black hair, one saying red hair, younger, older, that's just all evidence that
Mhm.
witness testimony isn't accurate. I mean,
Yeah.
especially if you're not expecting to remember those things.
Mhm.
Explotivia says, I'm a corrections officer at Indiana State Prison. RA was at my facility until he was transferred to Westfield. I learned at my facility Odinism is an actual religion
Yeah,
practice.
it is.
And he goes, Explotivus, I'm not sure if it's a male or female. I had a thought at intake. I'm curious what religion. Richard Allen declared with that knowledge that changed my whole perspective. That makes me feel he could be guilty of the crime. So let me read that. Richard Allen declared with that knowledge that changed my whole perspective. Did Richard Allen say he was Odinism?
No,
Is that
What?
what? I'm not
not
sure
that
if
I
I'm
know.
reading that. No,
I
no,
know.
I'm not saying that. This
Oh,
statement. Am I reading that statement
Okay.
right?
I had thought at the
The
I
intake.
had a thought at intake. I'm curious what religion Magellan declared with that knowledge that changed.
I
I
don't think
don't
I'm
get it.
following.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see
I
if he
had a
explains
thought at
a little bit.
Yeah, maybe they can explain a little more. Do they mean Richard Allen or do they mean?
Okay.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not really actually understanding that at all. Rephrase, please.
If you can email me expletivia, maybe perhaps I can once all this craziness is over, maybe we can get you on the show and get some
Mhm.
insight from things. If convicted, so I'm just kind of going through these real quick, see if I see, just to get forward a little bit. Oh my God, I'm awake now. I don't know if anybody else was sleeping, but I'm awake.
It's it's not one of those things I guess that I can really turn off. So when I catch it, I just mute it right away. Thank you. Lacey's been a member of my channel for she came here through your show.
Oh, okay.
That's how she knew about
Oh, but I think they would have put him anyway because they knew that he's a high profile individual. You know, they always gonna put them in keep them separate.
Right.
I guess.
So Explotivia said Richard Allen manipulated the system to get placed in a restricted housing away from general population. His mental state is real emotions of reality setting in. I mean, that's quite possible. I mean, especially once he
Yeah.
confessed, I think that's quite possible. But the videos that they put out there of him and acting crazy and stuff, shouldn't that also be evidence to say that he's crazy enough to do something like this?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. Did he always carry? Took his pew pew to watch fish.
No, he said that he didn't carry all the time. And that's my other question that I asked somebody. And we were talking and I said, my question is if as a family, and I'm saying as a wife, as a mom, if I know my son has mental issues, why would you allow them to carry a gun? I would be like, no way. I would hide the gun. Why would you allow him to carry? I understand
mean,
maybe he lying and getting the gun, the license. Okay, maybe. I don't know in Indiana what they need. Here you need many things to get a license. Psychological one of them. But I mean in over there, but the family, why didn't the family say no? The wife and say, you shouldn't be carrying a gun.
it's
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say the word gun. I
I
think gun
don't
is
think it's a big deal.
oh, that goes back to that boy that shot up in the school there, right? They knew he had health issues, and yet they gave him an
Right,
AK.
but Richard
yeah.
Allen's a grown man. Like,
Yeah.
it would be difficult for
Exactly.
anybody to say, "Hey, you
Yeah.
can't play with guns." Explotivia says Bridge Guy and RA have the same walk and leg space gap. One thing that I noticed that a lot of people were looking at when it came to that video of Bridge Guy walking is they say, "Oh, he has a weird step. He has a weird
Oh.
step." I think it was I went to a website that had it stabilized and cleared up and stuff,
Sorry.
and it had it all cleared up, and what ended up happening was um, he was stepping over what looked like a hole in the bridge.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's not his gait. That's his walk over the bridge, over a hole. And so, I just feel that it's hard to tell based on that one way or another. But I think that if you can kind of tell there's hidden tails in there that the person is short. The pants are rolled up
Pants,
yet still
yes.
baggy. The
Mhm.
shirt comes out underneath the sweater. The
Mhm.
arms, like if I bend my arm, I'm not 5'4". I'm closer to 6 foot, if I'm not 6 foot. So if
Mhm.
I bend my arm like this, you don't see my shirt scrunchel up
No.
like that. The only reason you would is if now if I had some little arms and stuff and I do that, now
Mhm.
picking up my sleeve so much, you see it scrunched up. You have that aspect of it. You have the sweater that was, or the jacket that was huge on him,
Mhm.
like the small feet that he had. Like these aren't indications of somebody who's 6 foot or somebody taller or any of those things. These are pretty obvious tales. I think everything about it was just like, all right, unless this guy, stole Shaquille O'Neal's clothing and his 6 foot, that's the only way he's going to be rolling up his pant legs and looking like that. So
Yeah.
no, didn't make sense. Sissy comes in with a drunk turkey membership. If you guys don't have your gifts on, make sure you turn them on so you can get that. Let's see.
But what bothered me is that this is something that the police should have had said at the beginning and said, hey, because they kept saying, maybe you recognize the way he walks. And now we know that also the video, obviously in a loop, you cannot tell because it's the same movement. So obviously the canvas is not going to be the same. So I wish they would have said, hey, we extracted this video. We did it best to stabilize it and make it bigger and make it whatever. Just pay attention. He might not walk like this, but, because they kept saying, look at the way he walks, that might be. And probably maybe that's one of the reasons that, a lot of people that knew him didn't recognize because he doesn't walk like that.
Maybe. I mean, somebody had brought up the comment like, if he was at his mom's that morning, how did his mom not recognize him? If he just left wearing the same clothes.
Well, he went home for the jacket. He didn't have the jacket.
According to him.
Yeah. Oh, I think he
But
did go home. I think he probably went home to get his stuff.
why would he go home to get his jacket? I mean, it was this unseasonably warm day. If he had a sweater over or a shirt that was longer, he still could have hid his gun.
Because he wanted to go get probably his kill kit. Maybe he had more stuff in there. Maybe he had, protective stuff to get the blood, and he had more stuff in there. Because that jacket looks stuffed. So it looks like he has a lot of stuff in there.
I'm not sure about that. And where he parks to isn't really the smartest spot to park to get back to. That brings me why I think it's more of an opportunity. He just happened to have his gun with him, happened to have his box cutter with him because that was something that was given to him, and he used it for work. I strongly
why would he have it when he was at his mom's? You know what I mean?
If he was at his mom's.
Yeah, but why would he have his box cutter when he was at his mom? Maybe he had it in the car.
He may have had it in the car. He may have had it in his pocket. Maybe those were the same pants he wore to work the day before or something, and they were just happened to be in the pocket. I don't think that this was prearranged in the manner that, all right, I'm going to go home, get my sweater, get my gun, get my box cutter, and then go see somebody there. I think he was under the influence of, at bare minimum, alcohol, but I would strongly suspect it probably was more. And I think that he goes out there and he's triggered by by Libby, and he's under the influence. And I think he was out probably in the early morning, doing some things with people or getting hooked up with stuff, buying some things. Maybe even he may have been, maybe not the early morning, but earlier that morning when it was cooler to be wearing those kind of clothing. But you could be right. Maybe he was like, all right, I got to go get a face mask and some gloves and all these other things so that I can take care of some random person. But
it makes more sense that he was like he was taking an opportunity to do this. It makes, from what he had on and stuff like that, what he took with him per se. I don't know. This seems more like something that he was like thinking about prior. He'd gone to the bridge. Yeah. He knew it. He saw his luscious little candies coming over doing the things. He was probably, he was probably that perv, that's literally looking at the girls and everything going by. And I just think that in his head, it was, to me, I feel like it was something he had thought about and planned. But that particular day, it wasn't like he maybe set out to do it that day. It was more that, whatever was going through his brain is like,
something triggered him. Something that day, something must.
That's how I see it myself.
Something. And I thought we were going to find out through the trial. And we didn't. Nothing, not even close. Like we don't even know his schedule. What did he do? We don't even know what happened after. Did he go? I mean, we know he went home, but we don't know. Did he go to work the next day? We don't know anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I keep seeing in chat where people kind of keep saying, well, Like, I need to know the height. I need to know about this. I need to know. Well, to be honest, we would all love to know about those things, but the jury doesn't have that information because we don't have that information. And the prosecution doesn't have that information. All they can work with,
Whatever
sadly,
they got.
is what they have been given. So we will not know for sure about why the sticks were placed like that. We won't know a lot of things because of the fact, unless Richard Allen ever writes a confessing book, telling his story about the whole, other than that, it's just the fact that, like, at the end of the day, whatever makes someone feel that Richard Allen is guilty or innocent, that has no bearing on the trial really at all, because it's the jurors that only have the information that they were dealt with because of the investigation, which is sad. So should they have done a height analysis? Absolutely. I mean, they should have done a lot of things. They shouldn't have called off the dogs. They shouldn't have lost the videos.
They should have picked up the sticks on
They
the
should have
same
picked up
day
the
that were in the
sticks.
body, on top of the
They
bodies.
should have checked the hair. They should have done this. Honestly, I'd be embarrassed. Honestly, with this case.
I would fire after this trial. I would start
Honestly.
heads rolling after this trial.
I mean, did you not feel a little bit there, Daniel, perhaps, if anything you're watching? Almost like the ego was preceding the embarrassment of just saying, look, we messed up. Please understand that we know that we've done things wrong. But you know what? Let those facts speak for themselves, But instead it was like, no, I don't need to read what I wrote 3 weeks ago. No, I felt
Well, I mean,
arrogant.
Mullen, at the end, I know that people don't like him, but he did say that they were
He said
mistakes.
but
He
it
was
was
the
very
only one.
little. Yeah, it was just that it was very little, too little, too late. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like Mullen put that out there about saying, yes, there's been mistakes for sure. No, you should have just said, you know what, there's been a lot of
I
mistakes.
think they should have been said, you know what,
This
we didn't have the expertise. We screwed up, but whatever we were able to
instead
get,
of
this is
acting
what we
like
have. So
instead of acting like that stuff didn't exist, like, we're not going to call this person because, oh my God, if we do, embarrassment on us, So, anyways.
well,
Yeah.
it is embarrassing.
No, I agree. It is embarrassing. I think that some people shouldn't be officers in this situation. And is there a possibility that there was, some ego there? I wouldn't be surprised. I think that if we go back to 2017 and we go back to, Ron Logan and all these things that were happening at that time, and then you had Keegan Kline. Yeah, I think that there's a possibility that they thought that they had their guy, and that they just needed to have enough evidence to convict him. And there's probably something that they just couldn't get over that cleared them. With Ronald Logan, it was probably the fact that he was out drinking and driving, and he was trying to create a alibi for that, and which ended up getting him in jail. And Keegan Kline just so happened to be another predator that Libby ran into. And I think that's what the tentacles are, because tentacles don't lead anywhere. They have a stop, they end, right? So I think when he said we had all these tentacles that we had to go through, I think it's because of all the dead ends that they had to go through that were promising at one point. And
don't
I
forget
think
the FBI thought that it was Ron Logan. I mean, they were sure that was the guy.
Jennifer
Right.
Pappendaffer believed it was Ron Logan.
Yeah, and I don't doubt, or I don't
And I like
I
Jennifer.
don't like what's the word I can say. I don't fault people who thought that it was Ron Logan at the time, with the evidence that was there,
Right.
and what we knew at the time. No fault of anybody that thought it was Keegan Kline either. I mean, those are probably the same two people I would have thought did it as well at certain points. I would have been kind of dumbfounded as to why they hadn't arrested him. And maybe perhaps I would have come to the conclusion, just kind of like I did with the Brian Koberger case, that, this case is going so long without one of these guys being arrested. They must have something that, they just can't prove. Or this is somebody completely you don't know, like in the Brian Koberger case.
Mhm.
I felt like in that case, if it was somebody like that was close to the circle, it would have been obvious to find out who it was. There are things that have to happen in order for a crime to be committed. One, they have to leave their house and head there to the crime scene. There's cameras everywhere. Are there videos and cameras of these things going on? Probably not. I mean, if you got these other folks that are cleared, you can't just continue to harass them if you can't tell it to them. And
Mhm.
so at the end of the day, I don't fault anybody who would have thought that it was
At the start,
at the start, but
not 5
now,
years later.
yeah, exactly. Now, I mean, you just sticking to your guns. That's just you trying to say that you weren't wrong.
But
You know what I
I
mean?
think also they were confident that they were like, wait a second, if the FBI thinks that that's the guy, that must be the guy. You know what I mean? Because they were
Right.
like, we don't have the experience, but the FBI is saying that's the guy. So I
Right.
think that's what they thought. So
Miss Doglover asks, $4.99. Question: if your opinion is not RA, who do you think it is? I still believe RA, but interested in your thoughts. So who do you guys think, if it wasn't Richard Allen that was out there, it was somebody else, who do you think it would have been?
Once Richard Allen came to surface, it was Richard Allen after that. Simple as that. You know, to
I,
me, going
I
back
mean,
and looking. Go ahead, Alexa.
no, I agree. No, I think it's Richard Allen too. But I mean, if it wouldn't be, I mean, it has to be somebody local. It has to be somebody that is in plain sight. It has to be somebody that is probably stable enough to have a job. He probably is married. So a lot of the profile would fit, Richard Allen, I think, to stay. But I would definitely think that if it wasn't him, it has to be somebody local. There's
Hmm.
no way this crime was from somebody that was not local.
I
So
do
what do you
agree that.
guys?
Oh, good.
Go ahead.
I do agree that this person had to be familiar with the area to a certain extent. I mean, once you get on that trail, does it lead you to the Mohan High Bridge? Like
Yes.
once you enter it, so it's not like it's a hidden place you can't find. So if you're driving and you just have some sort of knowledge that there's a trail there and you want to walk it, you're going to end up being there. It's not like, oh, you have to know the secret way. But I do think that it, because after what we saw in the video, it just seems like the person that took them from the bridge, who I believe was the bridge guy, which I think is Richard Allen, they were already over there, and that was the opportunity for that person to do something. And it'd be a different thing if they were on the other side of the bridge, right, on the one that's closest to the track or the
Yeah.
trail. It would have been a lot more difficult to then at that point instruct them to cross over all the way. So because they were already over there, that's what triggered, like, hey, this is my opportunity. Man, I forgot where I was going with that, to be honest. If it wasn't RA, so to me, if it wasn't RA, it would probably be somebody who is familiar with the area. I don't necessarily say that they have to be living there. I would say that they would be familiar with the area. They can be somebody that we don't know about, because if it was somebody that we had any idea of who they were, the arrest would come pretty quick. And just like it was with Richard Allen. Once they got Richard Allen's name and they said, all right, this is the guy that we think it is, and they targeted him, the evidence came in pretty easily. You didn't have anything that didn't exclude him from the case, like you may have had with Keegan Klein or Ron Logan. So
I think if he's not, if he's acquitted, I don't think we will ever solve this case. This case.
I mean, the case is solved. It just won't. It just won't be closed.
No, I mean, it won't be. Well, yeah, okay, solved. It won't be. We won't charge anybody unless those fires that we get there, and one day, like the Golden State Killer, like maybe one day we can say, hey, 100%, that's him, and we can bring him back. But otherwise, this will not be.
Yeah.
Well, I do think I think they can try him again fairly quickly and win this.
Oh yeah.
Like, one of the biggest arguments was that Abby's phone was manipulated at 5 o'clock and whatever.
I was going to bring that up.
And with a brief search on that phone at that time, it clearly would go into headphone jack mode if you had it had any water in it or dirt in it, which are the two things that it had all around it.
And they had to Google that to do that.
You know that. The expert.
All right, but now you have your arguments. You know how the defense is going to attack you. So now you can attack that argument and say, hey, the defense, when you go out there, because the prosecution would be the first ones, you would say the defense is going to try to tell you that the phone was manipulated. But as you can see, this was a common issue with so many users of this phone back in the day when it got phone and wet. if it got what if the phone got wet or dirt inside of it, and it was found in the dirt underneath the body that had been in that was soaked. And it's possible that that phone may have gone into the water to begin with. And the fact that it took 1 millisecond for that phone jack to occur, to be plugged in from when a call comes in, like that's impossible. Like who is that fast that they're just chilling? They hear it about to ring. Like even that, Sonny, you were not a millisecond from turning that off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who is fast enough to hear the beginning tone and within 1 millisecond pull out some headphones, plug it in underneath the body without moving the body or the phone, and that way it stops the sound? Because that was their argument, that the reason somebody plugged it in is because the phone began to ring and somebody wanted to silence the sound. It is stupid. I mean, that is just plain
it's beyond stupid. Okay, beyond stupid.
And why would that? I mean, think about it. If the killer knows there's a phone, there's a possibility, many possibilities. Even tracking the girls, the bodies. Why not take it or just throw it in the creek?
You see, this is why I think that he may have been under the influence of something other than alcohol. Like he put the phone underneath the shoe, underneath the body. Like you can't drag that, and it just so happens to align that way. You know what I mean? You can't drag a body to that position, and you're gonna have.
Oh, but it wasn't under her body. It was Abby's body.
That's what I'm saying. Right. She was dragged there too.
No.
So
no, she wasn't dragged. Apparently, no, she died in this.
Well, they're saying according to the prosecution,
her body had to have been dragged there at one point.
They said she was dead where she was. She was died where she was there. With that,
I think she had to be placed. I think she, died. And
I feel like she was stabbed a little bit there for sure because her hands are in this weird ass.
Yeah, position. I think he posed them. I think he posed her. Yeah, especially her.
I mean, she had the other girl's clothes on, and so I don't know when. It doesn't seem like that happened before she passed because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of blood on the clothing, and so I would assume that if she had that clothing on when she passed, then there will be more blood on the front of the clothing and around it. Now, so at one point or another, even if she passed in the creek, her body was dragged there, right? It was moved to this location, even if it was moved a little bit. And even the prosecution or law enforcement at the time said that this seemed staged. And so moving the bodies into something, even if it's just a little bit, but to get a shoe underneath the body, to me, that's weird. Like that's a weird lineup. And then not noticing that you're missing a bullet, leaving that phone there. Like a lot of the mistakes that you would think that, all right, I racked the gun, there's a bullet on the ground, they recorded me, I'm gonna leave the phone there. Like to me, those are like mistakes that maybe perhaps somebody would be making if they were under the influence of something.
Right.
And I think that might be what's going on here.
Because I can't make sense of that phone underneath of Abby's foot either. Because in my head, you're thinking, okay, if you were dragged, but that wouldn't make sense, that it happened, that he wouldn't notice because her leg was put like a 4, basically, right? And so it's kind of one of those things. Like, I mean, obviously he wouldn't know that he recorded, but yet no person you would think would leave a cell phone at the crime scene. You would think that they would, like, not knowing anything, anyone would just take a phone with them, because it's simply a phone. It could have something on it, might not, but you would think someone would take it. But instead, it's found underneath of Abby's foot, where she's wearing Libby's clothes, and it's just strange. I can't make sense of that one, to be honest. But Danielle, I do want to quickly ask you a question, if you don't mind. So when Dan Doolin interviewed Richard Allen, being a former police officer yourself, can you make sense of the fact that they're basically looking for the bridge guy? A few days later, Richard Allen says, hey, he meets up with Doolin at the Save-A-Lot and says, hey, yeah, I was there from 1:30 to 3:30. And basically, okay, have a good day. Thanks for letting us know.
Well,
like, what do you make of that? The fact
Well, a couple things. So first, was the video of Bridge Guy out there already when he went and talked?
No.
So to me, I think he had to go in there and say something because somebody saw him. You know, the three juveniles saw him walking out. There was another person that saw him on the bridge. And so if he went and said that he was wearing something else or doing something else, that would have been a lot more suspicious.
If the
And
picture
so,
was out, yeah.
right. And so having him, so the picture was out about what he was wearing.
So, but yeah, because my point isn't that, it's this. He obviously, to me, saw himself on TV with the picture from the video that they put out on the 16th. Okay, so he sees himself, and you know how it is. If you see yourself, how I see you could be totally different. You're a big blur to him. He probably sees himself for Richard Allen, that people are going to know who he is. He self-reports, but then Dan Doolin calls him up and says, "Hey, basically talk to you about this tip that came in." Richard Allen, he thinks it's odd, but he meets Richard Allen at the Save-A-Lot instead of either at his home or whatever. But so my point being is the fact that you're literally talking with someone that's claiming he's on the bridge, and you basically say to him, "Well, have a nice day. Thank you for letting us know." And then
you forget that tip. Unless
I
you
understand.
any other tips.
Right. Well, I don't know how far or how much this dueling guy was privileged to the information of the case at the time when he took the report. At that time, he may not have known or seen the picture himself. He may be just a guy that's coming in to assist with tips. To me, I think when it comes to Richard Allen talking to police, I think that is sometimes pretty common. People that commit crimes like this will insert themselves into the crime, whether it's within a search party, within something else, to try to get ahead of the investigation, to say, hey, I was there, but, obviously if I'm telling you I was there, then I obviously didn't do it. And so I think that's kind of the motivation and the reasoning behind something like that. It's pretty common, to be honest with you, for individuals to do that. Return to the crime scene is another thing that's pretty common. Those type of things. And, I just feel like that probably had a bigger toll into it. Just trying to insert himself in the case and try to minimize his suspicion. So, yeah, I think that might play more into it, but definitely, I do agree with you that he probably did see himself there. He probably got very panicky, looking around for quite a while, thinking that somebody's going to come and pick him up.
Yeah.
Did he have any psychosis events after that effect? After the murders? I think there was a family disturbance or something like that.
That was way before that.
Oh, that was before.
Yeah,
okay.
2015.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I wonder, but he did have those weird searches afterwards too about, I think one of them was teens
kidnapping.
Are you sure? Because according to the defense, it was, probably somebody else that got into his computer that used it. It probably was Kathy Allen or somebody else that just hacked his computer and looked at it, right?
Who does that? Like, unless you're like us. I mean, they check my search history. Oh my lord! But I mean, normal people. I mean, why would you search those things?
The other thing too, though, the fact that the defense is trying to lay into this lady about the car that she saw because she thought she saw an older car.
Sarah.
Yeah, like come on now, like.
Oh,
is she really like a car person?
Right.
Like, does she work on cars? Because I've heard some crazy things from folks who really don't know much about cars about what they think they saw.
I'll guarantee you, I'm one of those people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially women that don't know cars. I love cars,
but don't know shit about cars.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I understand that. Hey, maybe your father or somebody may have had one of those, but pointing them out, it's especially if it's been a while. Like, no, I don't think so. And the shape of the vehicle, it was a long squared hatchbacky shape. I think it was a Focus hatchback, which depending on the angle of what you're looking at can look like a sedan, can look like a certain other car. In fact, I think some people thought it was a PT Cruiser. PT Cruisers were designed to look like older cars. Yeah. And so I don't know. And Sissy says, didn't his wife make him go to rehab after this crime? Did he go to rehab after the crime?
Not that we know.
Well, I mean, he had an alcoholic problem.
They said that he went to rehab twice. but we don't know the time. I think it's before the crime. I don't think it's.
I honestly, yeah, that's been a while since
Yeah,
that's been brought
I
up.
don't
Like I
think it
know
was
in
after.
2015,
Yeah,
yeah, 2015 was a domestic violence or
yeah.
domestic disturbance, and they basically told Kathy to take him down to the hospital to get him checked out because he was so intoxicated, and probably acting like a loony. But anyways, so I believe he probably at some point go into rehab, but I couldn't say exactly when that
Going
was.
back to the car, but the only thing I wanted to say is everybody had they might have got the color wrong, the model wrong and everything, but everybody said a dark color vehicle. That
Mhm.
similarity that you can say, hey, nobody said they saw a
White
lime green
car,
car
right?
or a white car or a truck. You know what I mean? So that's something that you say, oh, okay, everybody said a dark color and like a hunchback. Nobody said like a big car. So, and again, we go back to memory. They're not going to remember because for one, they don't know cars. And why are you going to remember that? That's nothing special to you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's very interesting that they all said that. And I think that's what the jury is thinking.
What
I think,
about what about the fact that his sister and daughter came to his defense about some of the confessions he made? Do you think that those may have been accurate?
I don't think so. I think if I don't think, I mean, there's so many different stories about the daughter. But I mean, the daughter could have done it for the mother, not for him. I mean, I heard that the daughter sat there and wasn't too warm towards him. But I also heard another person saying that no, he did. She did look at him, and they kind of like embrace, kind of thing. I don't know. So I don't know what's real. But I
So
think she could have lied.
Let me put it this way. Typically, unless you hate that person, if you love that person, you're going to lie for them. If you hate them, you're going to tell the truth.
Or you love your mother, and you know what it's doing to your mother,
Yeah.
and you're willing to not for him, but for your mother.
Like this whole confessing, if it makes her life easier, shut the front door. Spare me. Okay. Daniel, come on. He was just trying to he's been, you know, will you still love me if I like, I'm telling you I did it, but will you still love me? Because I think I did it. But hold on. Do you still love me?
right,
Mommy, mommy, wifey?
right.
Like, meaning you can just feel like, to me, this was a weight lifted off his shoulders to get this out. He'd probably been looking over his shoulder for quite a long time. But I think, Daniel, tell me what you think of this, though, because so another person, CD, and I have a different opinion on this about the whole collected while he was in the 2022 interview. Honestly, when he's been watching the case and paying attention to it, and he sees these freaking two photographs that don't even look like him of these sketches, and the case is turning into a joke. Do you honest like so? CD thinks that, well, he was acting as cool as a cucumber. I'm like, well, of course I would probably too if this is the case. They're showing these different photos and they got a 20-year.
That's not what I heard. I don't think he was cool as a cucumber in that.
It was said
Uh,
multiple times, even by the news stations.
no, no. I think he didn't even say like you want to f with me, but don't f with my wife.
At the end, yeah.
So
At the end.
he got
And I'm
hostile
done,
at a
kind of
point.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there was quite a bit of there that he was getting hostile and a bunch of other things. So I don't think he was cool and calm and collected. Maybe from a certain perspective, he may have appeared to be
Right.
because of
He
whatever
has to
reason.
appear, yeah.
Sissy comes in with a $5 super chat. I'm not familiar with what she's asking, but she says, "Ladies, can y'all try and check because I think he did." I'm not familiar with what
What
check
did
what.
we say? Oh, I
Yeah.
think the rehab. I think that's what we were talking about.
Okay,
I think if it's a rehab, yeah. Yeah.
I got you.
I think that's what she meant. Yeah.
All right, good deal, good deal. Yeah, so yeah, all in all, when it comes to this case, um, it's going to boil down to the job the prosecution did. I don't think he's going to get acquitted. I think at the very least it'll be a hung jury, and I think that they'll have their opportunity to fix the things that they did wrong, and we'll have a different outcome if it's not guilty already. I
Yeah.
mean, who knows? Tomorrow they can come in and say, "Yep,
Yeah.
I think it was him."
Yeah. I
But
don't think he's going to get acquitted either. I I think we're all just praying that with even the stuff that should have been done but wasn't, that his own self confessions. Dr. John on Hidden True Crime, he made this comment that stuck with me, and he said, normally we beg just to get one confession. I mean, it's amazing if we get one confession. And he's like, here we got 61 confessions, and people are going, oh, we don't believe that. Nope. Out of all the time, we don't believe all those confessions. And he said, normally people are just lucky to get one confession out of somebody that did the crime, So I think
I have seen fake confessions, but I've seen 4 or 5, but I never ever heard more than 5 or 6 times. And by the time they say it, they change things. And in here, there hasn't changed a lot of things.
Well, I think that some people will say that he said that he shot them at some point. I don't know if that ever actually came out. I know that some people claim that came out.
it did come out.
Okay, so,
He also said he killed his family,
And
right?
well, I think that what he means by that is I think there was a little bit more to that statement that
Yeah.
everybody thinks he did it. It's all over now. It doesn't matter if he did or not. His life is over. And blah 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 blah. But to go back real quick to the sister and daughter going up there
right.
and defending Daddy Dearest. In my opinion, she may not even have known. Like, there have been cases where I have.
I'll be right back.
There was one where we made an arrest on this guy who was doing things to himself as his family member. I don't even want to go too graphic into detail of who this was, but a family member's child was asleep and recorded himself next to the child asleep. So, those things are crazy. And she had no idea. Nobody had any idea. The only reason they found out is because the dude left his phone open at one point.
The video. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And somebody saw the pictures and the videos that he was doing. And he didn't physically touch them, the victims, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't motivated by that. Obviously it was. Right. Same thing could have been like, a lot of people look at this and say, hey, they there wasn't any sign of SA. That doesn't mean exactly. The mere fact that they didn't have their clothes on tells you that this was sexual in nature, which even Richard Allen mentioned in one of his confessions, that this was sexual in nature. So they may not even be aware that something could have happened to them that Richard Allen has a secret of. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just because they went up there and said he didn't do it, it doesn't necessarily mean that he didn't do it. Right. It's crazy. Like, some folks will take the word.
Maybe it could have been very young and she blocks memories. You don't know. I mean, that happens too. A lot of people that get SA when they're young, they block memories and they don't remember 100%. So that could be another thing too. So many. But that's the thing that I'm thinking. The way I heard the jury was, I think they were intelligent enough, and I think we even heard that there might be a psychologist on the jury, and I think he or she, because I don't know, female or male, was left there for a reason. I think he or she was left there to kind of help the others, kind of break and navigate things. So I think, there were, this whole thing are like breadcrumbs. I think they just have to put everything together. Does it fit? And right. I think that's what they're doing. And I'm confident enough that they're going to see through. It's like, if it walks like a dog, if it sounds like a dog, it has to be a dog kind of thing.
It's definitely not a swan.
You made me snort on that one. That one's funny. You just popped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I agree, guys. At the end of the day, I think my biggest concern is just, how law enforcement did things in this case. But I think that at the worst case scenarios, they're going to get another try at bat. I do think that there's a possibility he is found guilty. I wasn't aware of the psychologist on the jury.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. That's interesting. Which also, last thing we'll talk about, and I want to get your guys' opinion. I know you sent me something on it earlier, Sonny, that I was listening
yeah?
to, and I was shocked. But apparently, there was a vehicle that was following the jurors after they had left and was videotaping the vehicle.
Really? That's
Yeah.
Yeah, who just posted that in our chat? Oh well, Melissa had told me about it earlier before I was heading to my doctor's appointment, and then when I came back, who just had the scanner thing in there, and so. Oh, are you gonna play
why
it?
would they do that?
Yeah, I hope they get arrested
Yeah, I hope so too.
because you
Yeah.
can't be doing those things. I mean, this is one of those situations where somebody's trying to get their 15 minutes of fame. Like, oh, look, I'm the one that got these pictures. I'm the one that did this and did that. And, I hope it lands you somewhere where it doesn't benefit you at all. Nobody's going to remember you anyways once this is over. And you're just going to have a case that's going to follow you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Again, we go back to all those crazy nuts that have inserted themselves into this case. And there has been so many.
Oh, I mean, that's in every case that I've seen
Yeah,
so
well,
far,
of course.
except for Rex Humerman. Unless I'm wrong, I'm sure the Richard
No.
Allen and the Proburgers will get together and think that the ogre is the Beauty and the Beast. He's a handsome beast, and that he's an architect that can build the perfect heart. I don't know. So I'm not surprised. It's crazy. You guys should check out my Twitter and what I said here recently when it comes to the Brian Koberger case.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me know what you guys think about that. I thought it was pretty funny myself when I put it up there. If anybody else wants to see it, go follow me at Drunk Turkey Show on. Well, it's not Twitter anymore. It's X. You go check out that post.
I keep going on Twitter.
It's Twitter, tweet. That's what we're doing. We're tweeting. We're not Xing. We're tweeting.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was watching some lives today from the courthouse, and there were so many people fighting and like jumping lines. People paying $600 for line
Yeah,
sitting.
the cops had to step in apparently there. Yeah, but anyway, shoot, what was I going to say about that? Oh, somebody had asked earlier, Daniel, just quickly. Someone had asked earlier, what do you think about the fact that the crime scene photos, someone posted them on Twitter?
They've been posted on Twitter.
That's what so I've already heard about that. This has been that people have been posting the crime scene photos. So I had just seen someone make a commenting or thing earlier about it, and we all know Twitter is a place where you can pretty much put up everything. But basically, the person was asking what's your thoughts about that. And let me put it this way. My first thought is you're sick and twisted if you literally, that's no different than another channel that put up the same things from a case where she got the photos for it, and she did it behind like a paywall type of thing. And it's, you know what, you have to have some morals and decency in your life, and people that want to sit there and literally just sit there and show, like, you'd never catch me showing Abby's and Libby's crime scene photos for the sake, like, what's the purpose, I just find that disgusting. But anyways, what's your take?
I mean, one, I'm shocked that that's true, and two, I mean, I'm shocked and I'm not surprised at the same time. Shocked that it would get out there and it's probably been shared and viewed on how many different times, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah,
because these little girls in the worst moment of their lives, at the end of their lives, at the worst possible way. I do think that there is a something that is considered too short, like that's too soon. I do think that after time, some of these things that it's been a while. Because I think there are autopsy photos of celebrities and all these other folks that are out there, and should it be out there? Maybe not. I don't think that should be seen by just anybody. That's, I don't see the purpose of people wanting to see that.
That's just morbosity. People are being morbid.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even if they want to see it, I don't see the purpose in showing it. Like,
for what?
Outside
I love
of
when
financial.
People say, "Oh, we want to see the crime scene." Well, you don't understand. Are you a crime analyst? I mean,
It's
you
because
don't
those people think that this is a movie, that this is Law and Order. They question things when they don't see it because they obviously think that they're in the case and that they were the detectives that were on the scene. Like there's so many times I get in the comments like, "Well, we haven't seen this," and I'm like, "Well, when did you join law enforcement? Like, why would you see it? Why would you know these things? You wouldn't." And oh man, this taking so long and we haven't heard this. Trial hasn't even started. Of course we're not going to hear. Are we supposed to hear all the evidence before the trial starts? Come on,
Right.
man.
I know. Yeah. So on that note, Daniel, so when do you think, what day do you think that the jury's going to come back out on?
Tuesday. Because
Monday's a holiday, I guess. It's a holiday for us in Canada, but
Yeah, but I think it's a holiday here, but it's not a federal holiday.
what holiday is that?
It's Remembrance Day, Veterans
Oh,
Day.
okay.
So
yes,
Really?
yeah,
Justice Jane.
but the courts, I think, I mean, if they were open last time they were open, what was the holiday we had? We had Columbus Day, and I think it was open. So
Mm.
I think they will be open, but I don't know.
Well,
I said
I'm going to
Monday,
say
so I'll say
Tuesday.
yeah.
If they are closed on Monday, I'll say Wednesday.
And I'll say Tuesday if they're closed on Monday because I said Monday.
Right.
Monday,
So
Tuesday.
you think that tomorrow they don't come with an answer? It's the very next time that they meet up.
I was kind of, I'm not. If it
'Cause
would have
here's-
been, yeah,
Because to me, if it doesn't go down this week, it's going to be a hung jury.
yeah.
Mhm.
I think I remember Laura Lee specifically saying on her channel that she could tell that there was a couple jurors that were very hung up on what the defense had to say, that she felt like maybe they were leaning more towards the defense. She felt. Now, so with that being said, right, if it would have come back today, I would have thought it could have been gone either way, but I would have thought guilty if we would have heard today. I don't think we'll hear anything tomorrow, to be honest. And the longer it does take, I think, yeah, the more. So it could be one of those things that they're just trying to convince a couple of jurors to go like, hey, come on, like, look, we got this, this, and this. I think that the psychologist will play a huge part in the mental health part of this, the juries. But anyways, so hung, I want guilty. I'll take hung and I won't accept acquitted.
I think that's what I think the jury. I think if we would have heard today, I think the jury would have said not guilty.
You
I
would have
think
said
that,
no.
yeah.
I said
In
guilty.
my opinion, I think they would have been like, we heard enough. We don't believe it. We don't think, but because
I
they're
thought of it
taking
the
their
other way.
time. No, for me,
Yeah.
that's how I believe. And I was like reading the questions and everything, and I was thinking, I think the jury, I think if they believe, I mean, this is my opinion. If they're gonna, they don't believe it. Not everybody's in the same page. I think if they're doubting, I think they're gonna say hung jury because they're not gonna let him walk away free. I think that's they maybe they don't want to put it on them to put guilty because it's not reasonable beyond reasonable doubt. But I think minimum they're going to say hung jury, so he
Yeah.
doesn't walk free.
Yeah. To me, I think that if it
I
if it
think
comes in
guilty.
early, it's because one side clearly won over the other. The fact that it didn't come in early leads me to believe that they're kind of in the middle here. I think that at this point, the longer it goes, the less likely it'll be guilty or acquittal. Obviously, I don't think that they're gonna get a like I said, I think they go past like Thursday, to be honest with you.
But I think it's reasonable. I mean, I think to even until Wednesday, that would be reasonable because I mean, it's 17 days, 18 days of notes, and there a lot of them took a lot of notes. So I think that's what they're doing. I think they're building themselves.
And request to watch videos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Are they allowed to watch the videos? Because I know in some
Yeah.
of them they're not allowed to
They,
rewatch the videos.
yeah, and they said if that basically the prosecution and defense have to like stay around in that because if they need to see a video
Oh,
and
okay.
watch videos,
Oh,
then
wow.
they have to
Sometimes they don't allow.
set it
Okay,
all up and
good.
stuff like that.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think even if we don't get it tomorrow, I wouldn't worry. I think they're taking their time, going through their notes and discussing it. because it's a big thing. Do you send a man, you know,
To prison.
yeah, to prison that you
They
think?
want to get this case right. They want
Yeah.
to, with the evidence that they want us to get this case right. They do not want to rush this. They want to be sure that what they're doing is the right thing, regardless, because they know that this is a very important case, and so they really need to take their time and go through that evidence properly and make sure that they're getting it right according to the evidence that they have. You
I
know?
don't think. I mean, if it's non-guilty, imagine what is it going to do to the families?
Is this a DP case?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that's probably why he don't plead. There's no reason not to plea to do a plea if that's not on the table.
No.
You know, I don't think that. I think if he's found guilty, I don't think they have anything that's going to be able to get it on appeal. I mean, what are they going to request?
Same. Yeah.
You know, Odinism did it without any proof that there was.
Oh, you know, they're
there.
going to try to put that in. They're going to
Right,
say
right.
that
But
the
even if
president allowed-
even if
yeah.
they do, they have no evidence of it being there. Like in order to accuse somebody in court, you have to have some significant
Proof,
evidence.
yeah.
Like they wouldn't be accusing Richard Allen if they didn't have significant evidence against him.
That's exactly it.
You know, so you know you can't just do that to anybody and just throw them like, oh, and you know what, next time I'm up there I'm going to say it was Geraldo Rivera. Let's just go blow up that guy's life. You know what I mean? It doesn't work that way. You can't just throw out names. And even if you have like oh, hey, this person didn't like that person, so they had a motive. All righty, but were they somewhere else? Is there video of them somewhere else? And if there is, and there's no other evidence tying them together, then you can't do it. I mean, the same thing with that whole Odinism theory.
I was just going to say the whole Odinism same thing.
Like
Wearing
there's
a
nothing
patch
there
and
that
having a tattoo. Yep.
right. I mean, I understand the whole, you know, they were in the prison and stuff like that, and I don't know anything about that, but the fact that one of the bodies, and this is what the Richard Allen defenders will say, is that one of them looks like the hangman, and the other one is a and yet neither one of them they don't go together. That's like me putting a Chinese symbol, like a tattoo of a Chinese symbol and a Sumerian text next to each other and say that they mean something together. Come on now. That's just.
Well, no offense, but you had Rick Snee talking about all that stuff on here. And I just couldn't do it because I'm sorry.
Oh, you did have.
Yeah, but Rick Snee started getting into the whole Odinistic thing and I'm like, oh my Lord, okay. Like, honestly, if there was an attachment, she would have allowed it. But they could not show an attachment to any of those people because they couldn't put them at the crime scene. It doesn't matter about the spit. You know, like I said, I agree the fact that she didn't allow the whole Odin thing in there because, again, you're just tossing out names to people that were suspects and possibly, perhaps. But the thing is that there was nothing that could attach them to the crime scene. There was nothing. So I can understand why she didn't allow the whole Odinist thing to come in, besides the fact I think it's a bunch of BS. And it is, because I remember when they presented it, they tried to say that the F meant Odin, which it had nothing to do with the word Odin. They were literally twisting the crime scene to their own narrative with Twiggies over freaking deer antlers over Abby's head and stuff like that. Anyone that's seen those crime photos. But anyways, I'm glad she actually didn't allow it in. At first I was like, but I'm actually glad that she didn't allow the whole Odinistic thing in there.
Again,
but a lot of people
go
believe.
ahead.
I mean, it was shocking when the Odinism came in. When that theory came in, it was amazing how many people believed it. I was shocked. People that that I respected, and I was like, okay, it went that way. I couldn't believe.
I don't fault people for believing in it because Elvis Fields is a very, very interesting person. You know, and not saying that he had anything to do with anything, but he had some weird statements.
Yeah.
But outside of that, he said that he spat on one of the girls.
Yeah.
All right. Is that there? Is that there?
Yeah.
If it's not there, then it didn't happen. He's just bull crapping. You know what I mean? And the horns and the hair.
wasn't there.
I mean, there's something in the hair, yeah, but it don't look like horns. And even Rick Snee said that they look more like antennas than horns. So to me, I just think that it's weird that he said that, and I would have paused and questioned it. I think I would have questioned him more than we know of, but who's to say they didn't? Who's to say they didn't, talk to him other times? This wasn't the trial of Elvis Fields. This is the trial of Richard Allen.
What I said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we don't know exactly everything that's there. Now we'll get what is cherry picked by the defense that's going to align with what they want.
Of course.
And the prosecution doesn't want to bring in any of this evidence, so they're not going to show what they have to prove that it's wrong. We have to believe that the judge is going to make that decision and determination, and she did.
Yeah.
Based on the evidence that was there, that she was privileged to see, that none of us were.
Right.
Ms. Dog Lover comes in with a $4.99, says, why on earth would people want to see those poor girls like that? It's the same type of folks that are probably thinking he's innocent. I don't know. But then again, I don't want to fault anybody for their opinion on one thing or another. I just, in this case, I understand a little bit why there would be some questions and some concerns, but when it comes to reasonable doubt, that's what it is. It's reasonable doubt, not all doubt. And is there a reasonable story that can be said that would counter, make this one not be believable? And so, and with the evidence that you can use, I mean, if your theory is that everybody is framing you for no reason but just to arrest anyone, when they had the opportunity to do so with Keegan Klein, with Ron Logan, with all these other persons, all these other persons that were predators and sexual predators and these things that were in the area potentially at the time, it would have been a lot easier to just blame one of those guys. But Richard Allen, he's the guy that gets the blame. So, we would have to believe that at the same time that Richard Allen is going to this trail, that there's another guy on the trail at the exact same time that he's on the bridge that he doesn't see.
That he looks like him.
Right. And and that his his bullet ends up near their bodies, and it's the one and only phone that disappears is the one that he had at that moment. I mean, there's just so many things that are a big coincidence that I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah.
And so when you come up with a reasonable story, it has to come with all those. It has to answer all those questions. And
it's confessions. How normal they seemed, like how normal his timeline was. In like this, I went to my mom's, I did this, I got my jacket, went over to the bridge, I racked my gun on it. It just all the lines of the truthfulness of it all, besides him throwing in some crazy ass stuff, with it. But of course, if your wife is basically calling probably the attorneys going, okay, my husband keeps talking about that he did it and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's parts in there that have to be like, oh, let me look like I'm a loony bird as well. Basically kind of like that drinking of the toilet water, perhaps, where someone's like, oh, somebody's coming. Okay, let me just start drinking toilet water. Like, that's what I'm talking about,
I mean, and also to hesitate doing that. Like, and then, if you're hesitating, that means you're not going through psychosis. But if you're willing to drink that and not be going through that psychosis and have to think about it, I mean, he's willing to do some very sick and disturbing things. So this will probably be our last question here.
Yeah.
Have you changed your opinion, guilty or not guilty? Just asking, how are you leaning? Do they have a shortage of suspects? In my opinion. Obviously, I think we're all here leaning towards guilty, but at any point in that, since Richard Allen's arrest, did you ever doubt his guilt?
I did.
To me, there was a time where when the defense came out with their stuff that I thought to myself, with what Elvis Fields was saying, I thought maybe there's an opportunity that somebody else maybe could have been involved, maybe perhaps. He was involved. The Fields and these other guys. But as the evidence began to pour in as far as the lack thereof to make this Odinism thing stick, it's just nonsensical or nonsense. And so to me, he's guilty, like with the PCA, because that timeline of him being the bridge guy is super tight.
Yeah.
And then I started to question it. And then the confessions came in, and then I heard about the confessions where see, even at the time of the hearing starting, I still had question marks. And then the confessions come in, and he's saying things in chronological order, in the manner in which they took place, about things that only the killer would know. You know, that was a huge thing that stuck with me on there. The confessions, and there was another thing that really toned it in for me that happened in this case, where I'm like, yeah, I just think that it's him. And the conventions are going to be a big part of that. The bullet, kind of, I mean, if you can hear or see, or if it's possible that one of the girls say gun or whatever the case may have been, that's been rumored out there, I don't know if any of it's true. I know that they didn't get to see the full on video, so there's part of the video that nobody knows what's on. But if any of those things are there, and there's a bullet found between the bodies, and he's claiming that he racked it or did something to it.
He's saying, if the girls took that picture, that's not me.
No, and a lot of people also are saying that, why is this little man, how was he able to control two girls that were athletic, that they could have outran him? But people are not understanding he had a gun, and these are girls, little girls, that they were probably like, you know what, don't kill me, I'll do whatever you want, thinking that, hey, we will comply and you'll let us go.
Dude, most of these people think they'll do something in reality. Somebody pull out a knife, they'll probably piss themselves.
Of course, we would do it. I mean, and
and suddenly your voice goes too. I'm sure.
Yeah, you have to be trained in those moments. Now, is there the possibility that you have some folks that go into the fight and flight, go into the fight thing? Yeah, but I guarantee you, the majority of people, especially as children, they're gonna freeze. They're gonna, like I said, most adults would piss themselves. I've seen it. I saw this one dude who thought he had a gun pointed at him. He was a ex-Marine too, and he was in his car, and somebody like on his window, and I got my dogs riled up, and and he looks out the window, and this guy has what he thinks is a 9mm, and he panics, and because he hasn't dead the rights. The gun's already right here in his face.
Yeah,
there's nothing that he can do. I mean, he can try to reach. He's in a bad position. He's facing this way. The person holding the gun is facing this direction. If he tries to just move or anything like that, he's gone. The dude pissed himself. Yeah. Like it's common. It happens more often than not. And so, to think that these little girls are going to somehow turn into like Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee and just combat this guy because they were athletic and the same height or whatever the case may have been. Like, it don't matter how tall or big you are. I guarantee you, I guarantee you that Kevin Hart can take out Shaq if Kevin Hart has a gun in his hand.
And I think that's the reason that girls don't have defense wounds, because either they were incapacitated, and and even from fear, they could have collapsed. They could have just dropped. We don't know. We don't know.
Shock can do a lot of crazy things. Yeah, I mean, people don't even realize they're shot, stabbed, or any of those things when due to the adrenaline and the shock of things. A lot of people say there's no defensive wounds. Why would they not try to move or fight back? If they froze in shock, they could have just laid there not knowing they were bleeding out.
And by the time it was too late.
Yeah, it's not like something that's going to that you're going to just it's going to be severe pain or anything like that.
Especially here in the aorta. I mean, you go to the aorta, that's it.
Yeah, and like
your brain is gone. Boom, that's
exactly. It. I mean, I've done some mixed martial arts stuff back when I was a police officer, and a little bit after that as well. When that blood supply cuts off to the head, it ain't long. It ain't long. I put a couple of people in a guillotine that
Mhm.
put them to sleep within seconds.
Yeah. Oh, we just here. If you go like this, and you can knock somebody over.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You just
So
have to know how to do it. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean it doesn't take much. And if he cut the aorta
Yeah.
and they panicked and
That's it.
fell down, I mean they could have bled out. They've been alive, but just under the panic, the adrenaline may not even have known that it was that
Yeah.
severe.
The
You
brain
know,
is not. Yeah. It's not thinking anymore. There's no
Mhm.
supply.
for people to try to put themselves in that position and think, oh man, I would have done this or I would have done that,
No.
when they have no experience of anything like that in their lives is remarkable. I have been in a situation where a guy had a knife and was coming towards me. I've been in a situation where we got in a shootout. Those things you have to be trained for. I'm telling you, you have to, and even if you are, it takes even more than that to
Yeah.
run into that, to be a part of that, to assist and help in those situations. It's not for everybody, and a lot of adults can't handle it, much less some 12 and 13-year-olds.
Yes.
I think it's crazy. I think it's incredibly arrogant and ignorant to think that you or anybody you think
You
at
do better.
that age would do better. Yeah, exactly. It's just it's ridiculous. And what I find even more ridiculous are the people that are blaming the family.
The
Like, I don't
family.
understand why this keeps happening in cases when they can't figure out something, or when
The
when
family.
all
Yeah.
the evidence points at the suspect, they decide to attack the family.
Yeah.
It's a pathetic move. It's a weak move. And
Mhm.
you know
Like, why would the sister on Alive, the like, it makes no sense. I understand if they didn't get along, but they were like best friends.
It's
So,
beyond ridiculous. It is just beyond ridiculous to think that Kelsey had any, like, I can't even go there, to be honest with you.
and then because and then I heard somebody, I asked somebody and I said, why? And they're like, but you haven't seen her interview. She's always like giggling and laughing, and then the little voice. And I'm like, yeah, because when it happened, she was a little kid. Those interviews, she was only 16 when
hmm.
it happened.
And people do some
And weird things under
people act
stress.
weird when they're nervous.
Yes.
You
Oh,
know,
absolutely. I
they
do. I
do
laugh.
think, and
Yes.
that's a nervous reaction.
Yes.
But again, these people think they know better. They're the
That's right.
superheroes that can talk and say, and they knew what they would have done. You know what I mean? It's just it doesn't.
Right. I
I mean,
mean,
it's insane because like people look at their anecdotal experiences, and for one, these people probably can't even understand or spell the word anecdotal, but they look at their own anecdotal experiences and they think that, all right, because I was in one situation that has no relevance to this. At one point
I'm better.
somebody tried to beat them up when they were a third grader and it was a fifth grader, and they try to compare this like, oh, I fought somebody that was bigger than me, when it was a fist fight and had nothing to do with anything like this. And they think, well, I faced somebody that was bigger than me at one point. He could have had a knife. I didn't know. Yeah, well, these girls did know. You,
mhm.
you know what I mean? And
And
so
it
it's
takes
just,
a lot of, takes credit away from them. I mean, this girl's what happened to them was horrible. I can only imagine. Luckily, hopefully, they pass really fast. But I mean, imagine seeing your best friend, being unalive.
I don't,
This
yeah.
girl, poor
Just
little
the thought
angel.
is horrible.
Yeah,
mm,
The
poor little
thought is
angel.
horrible.
I really hope that justice is served.
I do too.
Absolutely. I feel like the family knows the truth of this, regardless of the outcome. The family, I feel like, finally has the answers that they were searching for about why this happened. That
But
it
you
was,
won that justice.
yeah,
I think if they
you know,
won that's the last thing that they can say. We can go to bed.
yeah, you know, because one of the biggest things was why, why did those girls die that day? Well, because it was supposed to be a sexual assault. Don't worry, YouTube doesn't strike me whatsoever anymore.
I don't think so. I think that
You don't think so?
I think that once he had his mindset that he was going to do something, I
I
mean,
think
what
he's
is he going to do afterwards?
gonna
He
lie, bro.
assaults them, and then he's like, "What? They're not going to tell anybody? They're not going
Yeah,
to say anything?"
He always knew he was had to
but
Yeah,
be
yeah,
alive.
that's just another minimalization aspect of it.
That he
well,
was
the
Can you
thing
prove
is,
it? Probably not. It's hard to
mhm,
prove intent in that manner. But because, and I think one of the hardest things to prove intent in that matter as well is the fact that, like,
Mhm.
premeditation intent.
Yeah.
is the fact that he parked the vehicle where he parked it. You know, he didn't park it closer. He didn't go through somewhere closer with better means of being able to take them or do something. Because at that point, what was he going to do? He's going to leave them there in the middle of freaking Ron Logan's field, you know, backyard, and hope that nobody ever hears about this again. I mean, you know, the thought that that's all he was going to do, and people just kind of or the thought that all he did was just drink 3 beers or any of these other things.
And
when he's been, I think he is understating everything that he is saying in almost every step of the way.
Daniel,
he psyched himself to unalive, because I mean, you are not going to unalive somebody. Imagine the blood, just seeing blood. You know, you can pass out. So I think this is something he psyched himself to do, that he knew he was going to do it. He thought about it for a long time. He decided.
I mean, I think he prepared himself for a situation like this if it ever happened, you know. And I think that once he started, he probably couldn't stop it. You know what I mean?
But you don't believe it was an actual assault, like that the intent was for that, and then
no. I believe that he went there probably.
As well.
You know, I don't know about any of those things. I don't know if he went there with the intent that he was going to do anything when he got there. I find it weird where he parked and the distance he would have had to have walked. You know, the location, maybe perhaps his intention was to pull somebody closer towards where his car was. Maybe his intention wasn't the Monhan High Bridge, because, you know, you would think he'd park his car underneath the bridge something. Yeah. Like, so the fact that those things didn't happen, I think he was prepared for something. Like, hey, he had his box cutter and his gun. If you're going to buy drugs, you ain't going to take something? You're not going to protect yourself? I mean, that could be the reason he had those, is because he went to, you know, this place over here to get meth or something. And, you know, he went to go protect himself, whatever, gets high, gets out there on the trails, sees somebody that reminds him of his daughter. He may have done some things to her in the past. And bada boom, bada beam, they cross the dang bridge. And now he has that opportunity that he's never had, and he just so happens to have his weapons on.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's 100% true is that this case hurts your brain beyond belief. With all the what if, why did this, why the sticks the way they are, and why is this? You know, it hurts the brain. This case,
it broke the mold. I have never seen a case like this, and I thought I was the only one. And I was so relieved when people that were in the field like 30 years, and they were cops, detectives, they're like, nope, we are the same place. Because I was like, I don't understand this.
Yeah, I mean, Richard Allen doesn't seem like a very intelligent person to plan this out.
No,
you know,
there's no ninja. No.
Yeah, I don't know very many, you know, geniuses eating their own feces, but he's out there. You know, I don't. That's one of the. I never thought that this person, whoever committed this crime, planned it. One of the other biggest things was his clothing on a warm day. That told me that he was out there for a while, maybe not even just in that location. He may have gone to other locations before winding up there. And it's quite possible he had the thought that I'm going to, you know, if I see somebody, you know, I'm going to do something to him. You know, if the opportunity becomes right, and that's why he takes his weapons with him as well. But, you know, for me, I find it a little bit difficult to believe that any of this was planned without, like, it just, none of it screams planned. You know, his clothing, like, none of it. And to me, I think it was more of the opportunity. I think he may have been under the influence of something. And, you know, it was a crime of opportunity. And I mean, he walked back. I mean, he tried to walk through the woods, but I mean, people saw him. Like, it's just, to me, it doesn't make. And again, I'm not trying to bring reason to an unreasonable person. I understand that there's that thing and that aspect of it. But I just
either or, to be honest.
Right. I just think that if his intention was just to SA, then somebody out there, I think that his intent was probably somebody off of the trail, you know, off somewhere you can get on the trail. I don't think, I think he felt like he was able to do this because the girls had already crossed the bridge and there is nobody over there.
Right.
You know, and so I don't know. I mean, we can't say what his intent was. I think he even said in one of his confessions when they asked, "Why'd you do it?" He said, I don't know. I don't think he's lying. I don't think he knows. I think he was probably high under the influence of something, and he doesn't want to admit that he had this fantasy or whatever the case may have been, and the opportunity arose. But a lot of people say that. Why'd you do this? I don't know.
Right. I know that. Yeah. Right. I don't know. And most times they just like, just what, thought like a good idea at the time.
Right. I mean, that's if you're looking for somebody that is crazy and psychotic.
This dog never said she was going
to now there could be a situation where, man, I forgot where I was going with that. Let's continue. Let's see. Miss Doglover says, "Can you imagine the pain Kelsey feels? F off trolls. I know the pain of losing a sibling at the hands of another. It ruins your life." Yeah. Exactly. I mean, and then for these people who have no dignity, no lack of empathy or anything of the nature, just come and just callously blame somebody just to appease a narrative so that they can get their 15 minutes of fame. I think it's just bull crap. But it is what it is. So you guys think that the verdict will come in this upcoming week? I think that it's going to end up being, we'll do our final round. I think it's going to be guilty. I think it's going to be guilty.
Guilty? Guilty. And if Monday's a holiday, then so Monday or Tuesday. And guilty.
I think it'll be about 2 days into next week. I think they're going to have tomorrow for deliberations, and they have at least 2 more before they make up their decision. In my opinion, that's my psychic prediction that I'm going to put out there that has no basis on truth or reality. I'm letting everybody know that I'm not psychic.
My pendulum agrees with you. I was like, a pendulum, you've done me wrong in the past. I'm going to toss you out the window.
I hope it's guilty tomorrow. I know a lot of people are saying guilty tomorrow. I hope it is.
I hope so.
It is.
I hope so. But I don't expect tomorrow.
I just put our prayers out to the universe. Libby left a video for justice for Abby and Libby. I want that justice to happen. And I want Richard Allen, who I 1,000,000,000,000% believe absolutely is the bridge guy. Why? Because of his own evidence against himself. Anyways, so I pray that we get justice. My fight always was for Libby in that video. That video would always be the answer to, if it wasn't for that video, this case probably would have went unsolved in many ways, to be honest with you. But yeah, so for me, it's always been a fight about that video. Libby took that video. It's up to the earth here to bring the justice, to the right person, of course. But I believe the right person is exactly Richard Allen. And I just want justice for Abby and Libby for that video.
I do too. You're right. They did something courageous, by taking that video and capturing those moments. Richard Allen said it himself. It's over now.
Yep.
That's right.
Twice.
Okay.
So
twice. I said it twice.
People try making excuses for the confessions. People try making excuses for it's over. Okay. A person, I am sorry, but I don't care what anybody else says, is my opinion. A person does not confess so many times to a crime that they did not commit. They'll confess and usually retract afterwards and stuff like that, to make it like, oh no, I just confessed or whatever. But it's one of those things is that, like I said, the truth lies there between the confessions. And I lost my point there, Daniel, like you do all the time as well. When we get ahead of ourselves and our thinking. Bottom line is that Richard Allen, to me, it was his own doing, and nobody in their right mind will say, "Oh, I found it again." That it's over. That's not a normal comment to say because my house was searched and people are talking about me now. They're gonna say, "I didn't do it." You're gonna scream from the rooftops, right? Kind of like what we've said, about certain cases when the family members don't scream from the rooftops. Well, it's exactly that. If you're innocent, you're not gonna sit there and admit to a crime that you did not commit. Like, we know that there's those people that have, right? But okay, but everything, if you look at the evidence that's in the confessions and what he said to his mom and how everything was chronologically ordered and stuff like that, again, this is to me is relieving your guilt. You just want your family to still love you, but yet releasing your guilt so that you can, okay, I let it out.
Well,
You know,
that in my field
it's
is
over.
it's called consciousness of guilt, and anybody can Google that, consciousness of guilt. That you know you're guilty. Therefore, sometimes you make statements that you don't even know you're making. He probably that statement that he said, "Oh, it's over." Maybe he didn't even realize that's just a
Exactly
consciousness of statement.
something
So
that comes out, but is truth.
exactly
It's over.
because you know it's true. You know you were there.
What
So
do you, Daniel? Do you believe that? Because the news tried to twist that one a little bit to say, well, I can understand that he would feel like that after coming from the police station and stuff like that.
no,
You know, they
that's
talk to
why.
all my neighbors and this, that, and it's over. No, you're not going to be like, oh my, yeah, my life's over. Can I see my wife? You know, is my wife, is she okay? Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, said it twice. Just like you
What
said.
do you guys believe about the spare room? How the spare room was basically plastered with pictures of the bridge and the trail, and it reminded me of the 1 hour photo. And he always reminded me kind of that. I always said it to my husband. So, what do you guys think about that?
Oh, yeah.
I
Right.
wasn't aware of that he had photos of the bridge in his
Yeah, his
house.
spare room
Yeah.
had like basically like all over the walls, so many
Mhm.
pictures. Like
That
almost,
is weird. That's
yeah,
reliving the crime.
yeah.
That's reliving the crime. And this will be the last thing I talk about. So Andrew James says his confession was not accurate. Well, here's the thing, buddy. It was more than one confession. You can't just look at one of the 60 and say, this one wasn't accurate, so that means all of the others weren't accurate. There was not
Yeah.
even a gun used in this crime. Well, there was a bullet found. And,
Mhm.
you know, a gun can be used without having to be discharged. A gun could be a threat. I mean, somebody
Just like
can
it
go
was there.
somebody can go into a bank and rob a bank with a fake gun, a toy gun. It's happened multiple times.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
you
His
know,
confession was not accurate. I'm sorry. How would you know if his confession was not accurate?
61 times. I mean, we don't even. I
right.
mean, it got to the point.
And the thing is, he wasn't psychotic the entire time. He was on medication that helped him with the psychosis. And once he came down from his psychosis on the
Confession was
medication,
not
he
accurate.
still confessed. So, you know, yeah, maybe there was some that were not
Yeah.
not accurate. But if that was the case, if I was Brian Koberger tomorrow, I would start telling people he drowned them so that he can get off on the case.
Right.
Say, I drowned, I did it, I drowned him, and then the next day say, no, I did it, I hung him, and then the next day say, no, I pulled him from my car.
Yeah.
And then, hey, there's 4 different confessions he made that aren't real. Let's open up the gate. Let's let him out because he's obviously being honest in these moments. Get out of here. Get
I
out.
think that's also a little bit of the defense kind of trying to manipulate him to play,
manipulate.
to play a little bit. Like
Right.
he's insane. And that's why they took, remember when that picture came out with he's all dirty and his hand
Right.
is
And
like
they keep using that
you can
picture.
tell that was posed. I mean, come on.
Remember, Daniel, that
Yeah.
picture?
We all knew. We all saw it.
The warden said his shirt is
Yeah.
always white and clean. That's
Yeah.
when he's in the yard, in this whatever recreation, and he gets like that. But of course, he's all playing, all like.
Well, I mean, there was some videos of him like going crazy and eating his own feces and
Yes.
rubbing it on himself and
Yeah.
drinking urine.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to have the cleanest of clothes if you're doing that.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
like it's like saying, man, I expect to go in the water and get out dry. Come on now.
I know. That's a good one.
Like,
Anyway.
come on now. Well, guys, I want to say thank you to everybody that's tuned in. We've gotten over the 2-hour mark. I appreciate you guys coming on. We got to do this again after the verdict, maybe get a little reaction or something like that. That would be great. Everybody, if you guys aren't following It's a Criming Shame and Alexa, please go find them. They are linked in the Alexa, do you have your own channel? Or you just come out on
No, I'm thinking of starting one, but
okay. Well, when you do, let us know so we can get you on and get that put out to everybody.
If we have if we get a guilty verdict soon, we'll be having the drinking turkey.
We're gonna drink to that.
It's absolutely on there. Absolutely. Because you know what? Because exactly what the day I've been waiting for. Been following this case, not as long as some, but since 2020. And this is the moment it has come to. This is the moment. So I just need to hear guilty. then it would be like freaking toast the drink for sure. Absolutely.
Yep. I'll bring a bottle. I'll have a
Yep.
bottle.
We'll bring our
Yep.
bottle.
All righty, guys. Well, you guys were great. Everybody
Thank
go
you.
follow
Thank you
them.
so much.
Hit the in the title of the show. It says featuring. It's a crime and shame. Hit that link. You know what? Let me pull it up real quick. That way, everybody has a real
good.
easy way of finding it. So that way, when they see it, they know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. So it's
So, justice and prayers for Abby and Libby and the families. And again, hopefully we get that verdict of guilty that the girls deserve.
100%. 100%.
For the people that are following that same, line of thinking and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. So here it is, guys. This is the channel. It's Criming Shame, and they have 12.5K viewers. Let's get that up. Let them know that the Drunk Turkey Show sent you. You can see the live that they have going on right now with us here as well. Good turnout tonight, guys. I appreciate everybody. Make sure you go and follow and subscribe. It's a Criming Shame. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you find your podcast, Spotify, things like that, make sure you guys give us a 5-star review. We would appreciate that. Also, for those that are watching on our other platforms such as Rumble, Twitch, and Facebook, follow and like. With that being said, guys, y'all have a great night. It was fun talking to you guys here, and we'll see you guys next time.